All right, now we're going to talk about percent increases and percent decreases. In other words, we're talking about percent change. And so what this is it's a way to express how much a quantity has grown or shrunk relative to the original value. So when we calculate a percent change, the first thing we want to do is we want to calculate the change in value. And we do this by subtracting the lesser value from the greater value. Once we've done this, we can then write the fraction change in value over original value, and we can then take that fraction and convert it to a percent. It's important to note the difference between a percent increase and a percent decrease. So a percent increase is when the new value is greater than the original value, and a percent decrease is when the new value is less than the original value. So let's look at a couple examples of these. First example here, we want to calculate the percent change from 70 to 35. So first thing that is important to note is that this is going to be a percent decrease. The reason it's a decrease is because our starting number is higher than our ending number, right? We're starting at 70 and then it's going down to 35. So that is a decrease. The next thing we want to do is we want to write we want to calculate the change. So what is the change in value? Well, to find that, we can subtract 70 minus 35, and that equals 35. And so 35, that's the change in value. And so we want to write that as a fraction over the original value. So we have 35 out of the original value, which is 70. And so then our last step here is to convert that fraction to a percent. To do this, we want to think about, okay, well, 35 out of 70 is, we can simplify that fraction a little bit. So 35 and 70 are both divisible by 35. That'll actually simplify to 1/2. And then 1/2, we know, is equivalent to 50%. So the percent change from 70 to 35 is 50%. Let's take a look at one more example. So here we want to find the percent change from 30 to 33. Again, if we want to first determine if it's an increase or a decrease, we know this is going to be an increase because we're starting at 30 and it's going up to 33. So that's going to be a percent increase. Next thing we want to do is find the percent change, the change in value. So we can subtract 30 minus 30 to find the change in value, and that's going to be 3. So we always do change in value over the original value. So 3 out of 30. 3 and 30 are both divisible by 3, so that means this fraction simplifies to 1/10, which we know is 10%, right? So the percent change is a 10% increase. All right, the next type of question that you might be asked as it pertains to percent change is to actually find the new value given the percent change. So we have two different types of percent change, like we talked about. We have a percent increase and we have a percent decrease. So these are the formulas that we use for percent increase and decrease. And you might notice that they look very similar. So the only difference between these two formulas is that a percent increase is added to 100 in the numerator, whereas the percent decrease is subtracted from 100. The reason that they're both relative to 100 is because 100% or 100 out of 100 represents the whole amount. So if it's a percent increase, that increase amount is added to 100, and if it's a decrease, that's subtracted from 100%, 100 being the whole amount. All right, let's look at a couple examples of this. So this first example here, we want to know what is 20% more than 30. So to start, we have 100, and since it's 20% more, that's an indication that this is a increase. So we are adding 20 to the 100 in the denominator, or sorry, in the numerator. And the denominator is always just going to be 100. And then we're going to multiply that by 30. 100 plus 20, that's 120 over 100. We're going to multiply that by 30, which we can write as 30 over 1. Before we actually do any multiplying, let's see if we can simplify it all. In this case, 120 and 100 are both divisible by 20. 120 divided by 20 is 6. 100 divided by 20 is 5. So we have 6/5 times 30 over 1. We can actually simplify a little bit further by cross-simplifying, since 30 and 5 are both divisible by 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we end up with 6 times 6 up top, which is 36, and 1 times 1 on bottom, which is 1. 36 divided by 1 is just 36. And so that means that 20% more than 30 is equal to 36. Let's look at one more example of this. So if we want to find 60% less than 25%, so the keyword less is indicating that this is a decrease, which means that that is going to be subtracted from 100 in the numerator. So 100 minus 60 over 100, and again, we're just multiplying that by that original amount. 100 minus 60 is 40, so we have 40 over 100 times 25 over 1. 40 over 100, that's going to simplify to 2/5. The reason for that is because 40 and 100 are both divisible by 20. And again, that's multiplied to 25 over 1. So we could cross-simplify here if we wanted, but since the numbers are not super big, we might as well just go ahead and multiply. So 2 times 25 is 50, 5 times 1 is 5, 50 divided by 5 is 10. So what does this mean? It means that 60% less than 25 is 10.